Welcome back. The Sunday Mirror running with a story that Manchester City will try and sign Arsenal captain Robin van Persie. Would they get him, Sean, or not?
Well, I'm completely confused given what Martin tells me all about financial fair play. And as I referred to a story earlier, is it in the Telegraph or the Sunday Times saying that they've got to get rid of 20 players in order to fit in with the rules? So if you're trying to pare down your costs and all of that, Van Persie's going to be, I mean, potentially your most expensive
That's that story
player.
there you're talking about.
Yeah, that one.
But wait, sorry, where do you play him? Do you play? His best position is off a striker.
There,
that's an intriguing thing.
I agree with you. Where do you play him? Yes, and I know that's the debate you want to get into. But how do they get rid of all these players when everybody knows they've got to sell them really cheaply? To be honest, they want top dollar for them, but everybody knows they've got to offload. They've got to create the room for him, and it's going to take a lot of doing.
Okay.
And also, Robin keeps telling us how much he loves Arsenal, and Arsenal's great, and that he's committed, and all of that sort of stuff. So how could he go off to Manchester City? I think he's got to move abroad, doesn't he, if he leaves?
Yeah, probably. From Van Persie to Balotelli, you and I were in Naples this week where they lost in the Champions League, but were you surprised that Mancini allowed Balotelli out on the eve of the game to meet his girlfriend for half an hour in a pizza restaurant? I just don't see that happening at other clubs.
You can't imagine Ferguson doing that with a United player. I think the issue is more sort of internally within Manchester City of what the other players feel about Mario Balotelli, who is playing very well, clearly responding to Mancini's sort of arm around the shoulder tactics. A year ago, Mancini was being criticised for being too cold. Now he's almost being criticised for being sort of too warm and too friendly and too accommodating to Balotelli. But I think long term that does create one or two issues within a dressing room if they're feeling that Balotelli is allowed to go out from here with his girlfriend. And I don't think he actually flew back with City as well. I think he was allowed to stay on.
And the other interesting point, Henry,
can be dangerous,
was that Mancini admitted he hadn't been particularly well, Balotelli, on the Monday, but still played him for 90 minutes, even though he was ill on the pitch as well, and kept Aguero until the 81st minute.
Yeah, it wasn't a great advertisement for that pizza. In terms of, well, I think fair play to him. If he wasn't feeling very well, he didn't play particularly well, but he did score. But then actually, not many City players played well that night. So. But he's been playing well this season. We give Balotelli, a lot of stick for fireworks, for allergies, for not being able to put a bib on properly. But he's actually delivering on the pitch.
Yes.
Well, hasn't there always been different rules for the Mavericks, for the star players? Wherever you've been over time, there always seems to be a little bit of latitude. Don't you think George Best got quite a bit of latitude at Manchester United?
I mean, whether you would call Bellamy a Maverick is another issue. But in terms of, Bellamy had his own training programme in terms of looking after his knee and making sure that he was ready for matches, and Bellamy always delivered in matches, and Mancini wasn't particularly accommodating there. But it's difficult to criticise Mancini, and I won't, because I just think he's probably going to win the title. It's going well for him.
Don't managers treat certain players, superstars, slightly differently to the rank and file? They just do. You might say it's wrong, and you might say other players get upset by it, and they may do. But if you've got a player who's delivering, and he says, I want to go out for pizza and I want to go and see my girlfriend, what do you do?
Well, the other thing
Very
is
difficult.
If he says no to a player like Balotelli, then he goes off in the other direction.
But he's not their best player, though. I mean, you talk about him being a maverick. I mean, David Silva.
Yeah, all right.
Sort of about signing it, and you don't get any of that from.
Yes, but he's a different character. You know what Balotelli's like, so you do know that you've got to play that game a little bit.
You've got to manage him differently to the others, haven't you?
But if he's, say, like the fourth or fifth most important player in the team, and he's getting those extra privileges.
Right, here I go again. What would you have said? Would you have said, no, you're staying in, go in your room?
I would have had him coming back on the plane. I think
you travel in and out together.
I think if he wanted to go out, I'm surprised he allowed him to go out and have a meal, because you know what players are like. Everything is absolutely defined in terms of diet. To be honest, I had more of an issue with the pizza than the fact that he went out.
Yes, it did. Mancini has found that the Champions League is far harder than the Premier League. I think he's on record now as saying we're not ready to win the Champions League. He's almost bracing himself to go out against Bayern Munich.
They've got a tough group, didn't they?
And he also saying that when you have teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Milan, they're far more experienced and ready. Didn't mention Manchester United in his little group to win, but he's finding the Premier League just about he's under control with, but not Europe.
Well, they're playing supremely well, aren't they, at home? I think it's the power. They do remind me in terms of the sheer physicality of Arsenal's invincible team. They've got, Company and Lescott you can equate to Campbell and Keogh, and they've got, in the middle you've got De Jong and Toure. They've got Balotelli's a big man.
They always look like scoring.
Richards, power. They're just a real power team.
Yeah.
And they've got, because of the depth of squad, they can make changes off the bench, game to game, without having an adverse effect at all.
So why aren't they ready to win the Champions League? Please tell me what do they need? What they need more time, more pressure.
No, they just
long-term project, 10-year plan.
But it's like if you look at all English teams at the moment, I don't think then you would think if you were going to predict who was going to be in the final of the Champions League, you'd probably actually go Real Madrid, Barcelona, possibly Bayern Munich. Coming back to your German,
they're
friends.
the three top.
I think if you look at the 4 Premier League teams, I mean Arsenal are through, but the other 3 have struggled. I think there's an issue with defending.
Don't say they've struggled.
I think defending is pretty poor in the Premier League, so it's easier for teams to score. We're going to break all the records for goals this season, apparently. But of course, when they get into Europe, they're playing against far cuter opponents. I mean, Napoli the other night, their defending was outstanding. They hit on the break, Cavani, Lavezzi as well. So I just don't think it's such a preparation for going into Europe as before.
Praise for Company and Lescott all season. Lescott standing for England, really come on in his career. Company, what a leader, fantastic.
But probably the two best
problems.
Defences.
Micah Richards, why isn't he starting for England? So that's 3 of them. Joe Hart, what a top goalkeeper. 4 of them. Well,
take Micah Richards. Micah Richards' great strength is going forward. He's absolutely fantastic.
What's on the bench? No, but you tell me they've got defensive problems. I've heard now but praise for the defenders.
So are you saying there should be no excuses for them in Europe?
Yeah, I think there should be no excuses.
Yeah.
I know Henry loves building for years on end.
But don't you think that's right? Isn't there something, an element of old school? Is that right? You're going to put a lot of money into a club and then let's grow it organically, okay? So you win a cup, you won the FA Cup,
and then hit by financial fair play.
I talked to Lescott and Company this week, and they were adamant. And I don't think this was being wise after the event. That they wanted to focus on the Premier League. If you're someone like Lescott,
what a surprise!
No, but there is an element of ruling the roost nationally, taking the trophy off. No, don't you think? Because they know they can win the Champions League in the future.
We talked to Brian Marwood straight after the Champions League draw, did we not, in Monaco? And he said, target all 4. That's got to be what we're going. And said, and we believe we've got the players to do this.
Yeah.
What changed? They lost a game or 2. Oh, and suddenly, well, it's not our priority, really.
Look,
come off here.
But surely it takes time to build a team. It takes time to build.
He said they were targeting it.
I don't know if you were around there, but with Manchester United in Europe during the 90s, we went on so many trips with them, and they just had to understand how to play, how to deal in Europe with the boxes and players like that counter-attacking. Yeah. They were winning, the title domestically, and then. I just think they're doing it the right way around.
That is the only reason why did Spurs get to the quarter-finals last year in their first year in the Champions League. It's about how you approach it as well. Interestingly enough, I think...
They got to the quarter-finals. They haven't won it.
But they did an awful lot further than Manchester City. They beat Inter Milan, they beat AC Milan. They didn't do bad last season. What I would think is City domestically have gone out to win every game. In Europe, he seems to have gone back to his last season mindset of not losing. Yeah. And actually, they're better when they go out to win. But I think he's been a bit cautious because he was worried about their
There's a headline somewhere saying we've got to go back to being boring, Mancini, too gung-ho.
But Brian, as everyone said at the time, that was a group of death. When they
yes, it was. Let's just focus on this afternoon's game. Do you see Liverpool interrupting their unbeaten sequence at top of the Premier League?
No, I don't. I thought Liverpool were excellent last week. Well, they pressed the game really, really well at Chelsea. They thoroughly deserved their victory. They were.
You like a bit of that, don't you?
I just thought they were terrific. I thought best I've seen Charlie Adam play. Yeah. I thought actually the changes he made when Henderson came on, he really sort of tipped the balance back in Liverpool's way when Chelsea were doing quite well. Johnson had an excellent game.
You're not tipping them today.
But I think Chelsea are so much weaker than City. As I said, the power of City.
But you're not tipping them today.
I think City will at worst draw and probably win.
Henry?
I just look at, I think Bellamy might fancy this one. I think Suarez is, he's in such fantastic form. He's just must be an absolute nightmare to play against. But I mean, Liverpool haven't been so good at Anfield. They've been sort of better on their travels, as we saw last week. I just think I can see a draw there.
Yeah. And you think City just...
I would say City by goal in 3.
Draw for me, but I'm with Martin. I thought the way, actually... Liverpool weathered the storm which Chelsea gave them at the start of the second half, then came back and actually went for the win, which you don't always see from them. Kenny has a little penchant for cautiousness later on if you draw, but they had a go and a really well taken goal, and that really impressed me. And I think it will have shaken Man City a little bit to think, hey, this is going to be tough. It's going to be hard for us. but I'm going for a draw.
I think I'm going to go for Liverpool today to end Manchester City's unbeaten run, simply because you lot have never gone for Liverpool, so I'll go with somebody else. Be different, wouldn't it? OK, don't forget, if you missed any of today's show,